Welcome to Crew Love, where we show our crew love. Intellectual conversations, tell us what you love. Books and fashion, we wanna know what's happening. Books and fashion, now tell us what's happening. Current events, money earned, money spent. Pay attention. Current events, money earned, money spent. Intellectual, Inc.
It's your Roving Reporter sending love to my crew across the globe.
Hey Crew Love, let's get it started. Let's step into Charlotte's closet. Keep it sexy, cute, and curvy.
Okay.
For just allowing me to just have this conversation with you. Like, this is just so awesome. Like, you know, I feel like we go back. Like, we watched each other like really grow up because it's been a long, long time. So I have to say your title. I have to say it right because I've been practicing how to say it. Like, it's a mouthful. So I've been saying it like, okay. I said, this is Monique Patterson. I have it. She is Publishing's Best Kept Secret, Vice President, Editorial Director, Acquisitions, Outreach of St. Martin's Publishing Group. Did I say it all right or did I miss something?
Oh, you got it.
I was like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Like, how you get that like a placard? Like, that is a lot. And congratulations to you. Kudos to you. I mean, I definitely feel like you are like one of the best kept secrets. Like, I don't think people know what it takes to move and get all of these lovely books from start to finish to the NYT and do all of those things. So I wanted to say thank you so much right now before we get all into what you do. Because like in my mind, you're like a Neteru. You're like, you know, like LA Banks. I swear, like you're just slaying those publishing demons. So I definitely want to just go ahead and get into that before I leave that part out because I am a big fan of that vampire series. Like I feel like I think that's how we probably were created. Like Descendants of Eve. Like I have it all in my mind. So thank you. So I want to get right into it because I know your schedule is busy. So we want to talk about longevity. I know you've been in this publishing industry for over 20 years. Like, tell us about the early days in publishing.
It's kind of surprising. So actually it was the end of this month that I will have been at St. Martin's for 21 years.
Ooh, hey,
so
Jimmy.
yeah. So it's been about 24 years total in publishing. So clearly majority of my career has been at St. Martin's. And, you know, it's been a really, really interesting ride. And, you know, that's been possible because I've been able to grow here in the way that I've wanted to grow, which is pretty special. You know, it's not uncommon or, you know, at all for people to grow within this business by moving to other, you know, publishers and new opportunities. That's completely common. You know, a lot of times I feel like St. Martin's is actually a little bit different in that you do have people who have been here for a very long time, you know, 35 years.
Wow.
You know, more than that, you know, et cetera. So, you know, and in a lot of ways I have, you know, people here who feel like family, you know, because we've been together for a very long time, you know.
Like y'all came in the door together. Like
Yes. And so, you know, the early days of publishing, I mean, like, you know, when you first get into it, it's like anything else. You are learning. You know, I didn't know anything. You know what I knew about publishing? I knew that that's where books were made. That was it. That's all I knew. And I came in right out of college. I actually got an interview, you know, at Avon Books at the time. Okay. It was before I even graduated and I got offered the job. You know, it's a little bit tougher now, you know, but that's what happened, you know. And so I started like a week after I graduated from college.
Right in it, like you just dived
right into it. Didn't know how to fill out a FedEx form. Didn't know how to do nothing, you know. And so it was, you know, it's baptism by fire. But like I was right in the midst of everything, and it was so exciting. And I was working on the kind of books that I loved, and I was just like some of the authors that I never dreamed I'd touch, you know, their manuscripts, you know. Are you kidding me? So it was so exciting, you know. And I bought my first book like 6 months after I started, and because, you know, I was looking around and that's what everybody else was doing, So I was like, well, that's what I need to be doing. Let me get on it.
What was the first book that you purchased? If you don't, what was the first book?
Oh, the very, very first book that I published was a Western romance called, it was by Rebecca Wade, and I think it was called The Outlaw or something like that. Outlaw was definitely in the title. That was the first book that I ever bought. So it was just a lot of learning. And the thing about getting into on the editorial side is that it really is more like an apprenticeship, for anybody who's coming into that business. And so you're learning on the job. Like I know there's like the NYU publishing courses and stuff like that, but I've never taken those, so I can't speak to.
Nothing will prepare you for jumping right in, like hands in, just in it, just seeing it move. And I think that's like with anything as far as like working. I definitely think that we as women, and especially Black women, we have a history of trial by fire. Like we're gonna figure it out as we go along, because we refuse to let anyone tell us that we can't figure it out. Like even if we have to be home studying what we're supposed to do at night and come to the office the next day, like, well, I knew that. Like, meanwhile, you're taking notes. So I definitely understand that and I applaud that. Like that's just says something about the tenacity and just about who you are as a person, because not only did you learn it, like you mastered it. Like you're like cutting seals, like it's something special to watch, and it's inspiring. And I think that more people need to hear these things. I don't think that they understand that it doesn't just start at like street dreams. Like it's just that's where it starts. No, it starts way before that. It starts with an idea, and it starts going back and forth, and you chasing down the authors for the for the scripts to come back. So definitely, that was like a little insider. Like,
yes.
Chasing down the authors, because I mean, on your heels, chasing him down too. Like, he's gone. We'll table that. We'll put a pin.
Yes.
in that one right there. So urban fiction was like the hottest thing in publishing at one time.
Yes.
What was the first urban fiction book that you touched? Like, what was the very first one?
It was Street Dreams.
And I did not know that. Like, I picked one, but not a lot, because I like to make my own experience, make it my own. Yes. And so that's when we first started dating, which is like so weird, like that was the time as he was writing that book. And that cover still, and I know that there was a hassle and so much, but that cover was just embodied everything that I knew, like growing up outside, project booty shorts, holding him down. Like it was like I didn't know that it was street dreams. I definitely thought that it was something else. And how was that for you, like street dreams? Because it was such a beautiful.
That was really exciting. I mean, of course, I had been reading, everybody in the genre. I mean, Iceberg Slim,
right?
So Good, Terry Blades, yeah. So, and reading Street Dreams, I feel like Street Dreams is like this story that is still so vivid in my mind, and I think it goes beyond just, of course, it was the first, urban fiction tale that I acquired and ended up working on. It was how vivid it was. It was how the energy and the storytelling and the characters, and like to this day, if you have to ask me, if you make me choose, I will choose one. Like I love all of Quant stuff, but that's like one of my, favorite, and I'm not saying that because I'm talking to you. It really is true.
I know that there's like a honesty. Like, I definitely can see, because it does have an impact. Like for me, I read different genres, so they all have a different impact. But that one definitely, it does stuck. Like I can even right now recite the opening line. Like, oh, y'all line up. Like I can just see it in my mind. And I think that that's a gift to be able to write it, but also to be able to receive it for like who it is. I think that that's what you have, like the perception to know, like this is art, like this is beauty. Just because street is in the name of, like, people from the street, we dream, like we do, like we don't just sleep and just wake up to be a menace to society. That's not what real people. And there's layers, and there's neighborhoods, and there's moms, and there's effects of different things. So that's a good thing. Come on, with
it was one of my, and I think I remember when I got it in on the proposal on submission, and I was just like, I remember walking into the meeting and I was like, Monique, you gotta act real cool. Don't be too hyped about it, because then they're gonna be like,
no, they're gonna shut you down. You gotta start off subtle with it.
I was like, don't be too emotional about it, just be real businesslike about it. And and I was, and and let the material speak for itself, and it did, and so that's how it ended up being the first book that I acquired that's urban fiction and working on. And also about that cover, I remember, and I can't remember what magazine I saw it in. It was an ad that I saw. It was something like either King magazine or something like that. And I was like, this is what we, find the photographer. Let's get this cover. Let's get this on the cover.
It was the grip of the thigh. It was the apple booty. It was just a lot, because I like to pick apart. It said everything. That the story. I remember, like when he showed me, I was like, oh, this right here, this is the one, because that was the one that let him know, like, okay, he wasn't like one hit wonder, like he was really feeling like you guys had came in, because it's different from the accolades from the street, and to come in from like people that don't know you, that they're not your cousin, uncle, whatever, and they can say like, you do have this gift, and to know, like, and like I said, like the perception, just the whole thing, like putting it together, I could say that and me, I would love to see that on the screen. That's just one of the things, like that's something that I would love to see on the screen, because like we get a lot of stories of like strife and stuff, but we don't get the real human interest. Like, again, we are people, honey. Cut me, I bleed. Like, I laugh, I smile. We feel the love. Like, I think that is important. I got two questions. I want to flip it around. LA Banks.
Yes.
So, as you said, the great.
Yes.
LA Banks. Like, so my family, we have a reverence for her, because I know that when Kawan was out, and this is again even before I met him, he was reaching out to several authors, who are NYT, some are not, and the response that he was getting was like so sad and discouraging, and she let him know, like, listen, young man, young brother, this is what you're doing, and you will go places. And that stuck with him, and I think that he still takes that like with him today. And you work with her, and I know that you were instrumental in making sure that her books were just classified as like is it fantasy fiction? I want to say it right, because I always, sometimes I get my genres mixed up. Is it fantasy fiction? Or her?
Fantasy. Okay. And specifically that was a category that was called urban fantasy. At the time, which is different from urban fiction. Basically, it's urban because it's set in the city, which I guess it's the same.
I know, because this is like the debate we can have on and on with the urban, because that's my next question, because I have a Monique Patterson quote that I want to give back to you. But so how was that, like making sure that she had the proper placement and that her books were where you wanted them to go?
Anything I take on, I start thinking about what I want it to be, like, well, where does this fit? Right. And I want to be like very like crystal clear about where it's supposed to go, right? What it's supposed to be, because I have to be able, as the editor, I have to be able to communicate that to my publisher, when I'm trying to buy it. Right. I have to be able to, then when I'm launching it to the entire company, to the sales force, to marketing, to publicity, to sub-rights, library market, everybody is in the room. I have to be able to say, this is what this book is. Here's the audience that we're going for. Here's how we should, et cetera. I have to lay it out. And so it requires me to know the market as best as I can. and then position each book as best as I can within that market, so that it fits within the category and also stands out in that category. So, with LA Banks, so I'm a big fantasy fan anyway. I love it. I was a big Buffy fan, I was, all of that. So I was like, I want a Black female vampire slayer. That's what I want. And Leslie ended up delivering something that was just beyond my wildest imagination, and she was an amazing person to work with. Just like her creativity was just off the chain, off the chain always. And, I knew what was happening in with paranormal romance, and what was happening with urban fantasy. And so I basically positioned it accordingly, like in terms down to like cover and format. And, she and I talked a lot, about like, okay, I think this is what we need to do, and, et cetera, et cetera. And then we ended up getting this artist who executed this cover that was just amazing. Minion is still one of my favorite covers.
Right here in my rotation, like something I can read again. Like I do a rotation of books like that when I get bored or whatever. So yeah. So you have to know your market, and then you try to make the best decisions possible to position the author. It's not that you always succeed, because that's the nature of selling anything, right? You kind of try to read the room as best as you can, and then you go out, and then sometimes it hits and it lands and people love it, and then sometimes it doesn't, and you have to figure out and then kind of go back. But with that one, we got it right, first time out the gate. How many millions of copies is the book? Because I know that the number is really, really high for that series. Like I know.
Oh gosh. I haven't looked. I haven't counted up, because it just continues to backlist and backlist. I'd have to count. I mean, it's definitely above 1 million in print of that series. Definitely more than that. So yeah.
And I try to pass it on to like youngsters that I know that are like into fantasy fiction and things like that, because I don't think that they're aware, like, the characters can look like you. They can have the kinky hair, and they can have urban settings and things like that. So I think that is awesome. Like, you're just always on the right side of history, Miss Patterson. That's what I'm talking about. I love that. I love that. But I did read that you said, and this is something I agree with, and correct me if I'm wrong, African American is not a genre.
Yes.
Expound.
So, it used to be one of, so we used to have these actual categories in certain bookstores that was just like African American, and you'd go there, and it's basically everything that was ever written about or for African American, like, so it's like everything's in that category. It's like nonfiction, it's like self-help to fantasy to all this stuff. It's just like, okay, Black folks, here's the Black folks section, and you're like, and we used to talk about it and how, like, and within publishing would be like, African American titles, and then I was like, what does that mean? It's not everything. And I was like, first of all, we don't go around saying white books. Right. What does that even mean?
That's the thing. Like, we don't. Like, I feel like they want to, like, it's like a pre-warning. Like, okay, these are just all,
right. Like we all read the same things. Like, here, Black folks, here's all your books. And you're like, no. These go into categories. They are romances, they're self-help, they're finance, they're all different kinds of things. And I think, what ends up happening, and so basically I was just like, an ethnic group is not a genre. Okay? A racial group is not a genre. So let's move away from that language. Right. Like, and actually I remember saying it like that because I was like, I just want somebody to hear how ridiculous this sounds. Like, African American is not a genre. And when you say it like that, you're like, right.
Really not. Like, I'm like, because there's so many different, like, we're multi-layered. Like, there's so many.
We're not a monolith.
Going on. Like, we can't just be, that's just like when someone, like, I know you get this, like you're the only Black person in the room, or you're somewhere, and they think that, you know, you represent all of the whole entire Black America. Like, I remember I was on a train and these guys were doing push-ups, and the people are looking at me, and I'm like, he's not with me. Like, what's happening? You think I'm gonna break out and do some push-ups too? So I definitely get what you're saying. Like, we cannot be just put into one big pot, and like it has to be broken down, and it has to be so that. And I think it also muddies the waters. Like when you say like, here's all, like separate, like every individual genre shine, every author and publisher edit in their own right. Don't just make it as just like this one, everything but the kitchen sink soup. Like, I definitely.
Yes. And I think, you know, part of that had to do, in my opinion, this is just my opinion,
right,
with the fact that in the beginning, you know, when I came into publishing, it's not that Black folks weren't being published, it just wasn't that many. And I remember just early in my career hearing people still marvel at, oh, you know, do Black folks read? Like, they really...
It's a shock, right? It's a shock, right?
Really didn't know. And I'm like, I mean, well, of course, you're not going to know if you don't actually have Black people working here, and if you don't talk to Black people, and you're not around Black people, and you don't ask Black people what they like to read, and you certainly don't publish any books that Black people... Like, you're not going to know any of that, you know? And so... I think there was this whole thing of like, okay, well, you're not going to go from like, do Black people read, to knowing how to actually market to them, right? You're not gonna make that kind of leap. So it was like, okay, they do read. All right, let's put up a section where they can go to get some books by Black people.
Right? Come on, Blacks, come on in. Like, this is,
you know, and it was like, it was good. It had its pros and its cons at the time. Not because it was the right thing to do, but because for Black people, we were definitely not being served by the major publishers. You know, we just weren't. So, and we weren't even being really served. Of course, since there weren't a lot of our titles there, and even self-publishing at the time hadn't really, like, you know, taken off at that particular moment. Being able to walk into the bookstore for the first time and actually have a section in the store that had books about people who look like you, and you know, I mean, that was something. Like, it wasn't like it didn't have its uses. Like, for Black people walking into a bookstore back then, when there had been nothing, and then all of a sudden we got our own section.
I still do it. I walk to see, I go to the store, and I always see, as far as you know, we're in the magazine business. So now I go and I always check to see how many Black magazines are there, and I can always count maybe 40 white publications, and maybe 2 or 3, and maybe they're just like a racially ambiguous or non-threatening, maybe a Tracy Ellis Ross, or a lovely looking Russell Wilson, or you know, something like that. So you know, we're there, but I understand, like, I feel like there's always the need for more, like, you know, more voices, taking up more space, more creativity, just digging deeper, because we're not surface. I think now people are coming around, but they could come around, you know, a little faster, you know, and for the people that don't, I think that's where you come in. Like, I feel like you're here to say, okay, well, since you don't, let me let you know what you need, since you don't know what you need, because sometimes that goes for anything. People don't really know what they need until you tell them, you know, those are the type of people that we're dealing with. This is the world we have, and people don't know what they need until it's there.
I mean, we're all like that, you know, like there are plenty of things that I didn't know I needed until it showed up, or that I wanted, and then there, and I was like, this is great.
And you're like, I needed this. Like, you had no idea, and it's about becoming, I guess, more aware and growing. And I think that St. Martin's is definitely a growing place. I mean, you're evidently you're like this beautiful orchid, like just taking over. Like, you know, like, I would see you, and you know, I would say, get that glass ceiling. I remember, like, obviously, we were at like a book site. I think it may have been, and I remember saying that. I remember we were like we were at a barbershop, and it was a book site, because you guys were doing a lot of out of the box things, right? And you guys did a lot of things that were out of the box, and I think that's what helped to grow the genre and the fan base and just those things, because you guys were like tapping into like real people. Because I mean, we like the barbershop, like that's something, and that's where you're gonna spend your time. Like, okay, I'm waiting a haircut, get a book or whatever. But I remember saying to you, like, shatter the glass ceiling. So now that you have I know that there were a lot of cuts that came with that. Like, can you talk about anything if you want to? If not, because I'm not that pushy person. Like, tell me what they did. No, but I know that to whom much is given, much is required. So I know that there were some cuts as you was kicking that ceiling in for or everybody to come behind you to say, oh my God, they read a lot, they buy books, they spend money, they really do. There is a need for this. So how was that, like, shattering the ceiling?
I mean, it's, I mean, I was never thinking about it directly like that way, right? So I was thinking every move that I've made has been in service of what I actually wanted for myself, for my career. And a big part of my career has been my passion for like bringing more of us in, bringing, like, in general, just love books, and then like being able to bring more of us in, and out into the market.
Right.
So, every move that I've made has been in service of what I love about my job, and what I really, really want to accomplish, and I'm not silly. I'm a businesswoman. So I also understand that this is a business in which you have to produce profits. And I like having profit. I like saying, look at this book and all the copies it's sold.
Like saying, yes, this is what I do. My track record speaks for itself.
Exactly.
All of these lovely titles behind my name, because this is what I do, and I love to do it. And clearly it shows, I think that when you love to do something, it shows. Like you put your everything in it, and it rewards you in turn. And it may not be easy, and it may not be immediate, but you are rewarded. Like, I know that you are responsible for at least 50 or more authors on the New York Times bestseller list. I know this. So, first of all, how is that? And congratulations for that. I wish I had like a whole, like, I'm gonna get a drum line. So the next time, watch, as I grow my platform, you're gonna see like a little drum line. It's gonna be like a little Nick Cannon wanna be like every time I say something big. And like, what's that?
I mean, it's an amazing feeling. It is an amazing feeling to launch a book onto the New York Times bestseller list. It still is, for many people in the business, and honestly, even just like people who don't know that much about publishing, at least know it's a big deal if you hit the New York Times. It's a big. You don't have to know that much about the New York, like, publishing or any of that stuff, but that, and it's an amazing feeling because it is not easy to accomplish. There are, I don't even know the actual statistic, but I would be pretty sure that if you look among all the books that are published within a year, that you'll find that it's maybe 1%.
I'm so sorry. I didn't like just moved. Like, I'm like, no one's there. Is that I'm startled. I'm sorry. This is what happened when you working from home. This pandemic. I know. Twisted, girl. I'm twisted. I'll be here. I don't even know how that happened, but yes.
I don't. Trust me. I've had my cats come in, enjoying, like it. Yes.
This is my dog, honey. My dog is always on my lunch break, and I'm just like, what's up? Like, sometimes, like, I'm just looking around. I'm like, how's everyone in my office? Like, what's going on? But
exactly.
They do what it do. Oh, exactly. My heart is still beating. I'm like, that's the ghost of the New York Times. Like, what's happening right now?
See that's in our DNA though, yo. We hear something, we ready to go.
I'm ready to leave my own house, and it's amazing because I don't even know what's happening. I'm just, we run. We don't need no coordinators. We don't need no captain. I don't need no whistle to blow. I saw that little. I got something slipped, whatever. I don't know by the same. It almost had to be 100 miles away. Like, Monique, I got it. Exactly. I was so startled. These outtakes. Oh my God, these outtakes are gonna be hilarious. So we were talking about the New York Times list. So
yes.
That they could use some more diversity on the list. I definitely think that there's a lot of underrepresented genres on that list. Like, what can we do to like make that happen? Like, what can be done?
I mean, the New York Times it's a tricky thing. Like, nobody knows exactly what you have to do, except there are certain things you do know to kind of position yourself possibly. Now, the main thing that matters is volume. First week volume matters a lot, for the New York Times. Like, you have to be selling enough copies, and especially among the other people who are also competing for those slots, you have to be selling enough copies, in that week to even make it onto the list. Like, that's the number one thing. And then, of course, it matters like kind of like which accounts, you want that spread, that volume happening across as many accounts as possible. So your Amazon and your Barnes and Noble and your independent booksellers
all the reporting stores, right?
Right, all the reporting stores, you want that happening. So that's really what it is. And so it has to be, it's all about that momentum that's built up in that first week. So it's like all the hype that's kind of going into it the week before, and that's not the easiest thing to create,
Not in this instant snap. Like, we blink, right. You hot, and then tomorrow it's like no.
Right, and we're competing with other books and Netflix and Hulu and HBO and all this.
On stream, and everybody trying to get me to do a 7-day trial because they don't bring back Tasha Mack, and I gotta watch that TV. Like I said, I root for everybody Black. That's what I'm about. That's what my platform is about. That Intellectual Ink is a magazine for readers and writers. It gives the readers a glimpse into the writers' lives, and it gives the writers, especially the new ones, places to showcase and just to kind of interact and preserve magazines in the written word. Because as we are in this instant microwave, Snapchat, TikTok, like, I'm still behind. I'm a TikTok maybe, but like, as we're in it, things are moving so fast, we lose sight of like magazines, like we can touch sometimes, and books, and then with like the streaming. Now who wants to wait a week to watch TV now? Like, we got the Netflix. No, you had a binge. Like, what? If you can't
listen, that whole first season, give it to me now.
And I'm telling you, they got me right now because they brought back the game, and I love Myra Brock and Salim. I don't care. Like, they have anything they put out. Yeah, the game, Girlfriends, Love Is, which was so amazing. Yeah, and I'm even all of those things, and now they brought back the game, and I'm like, when you gonna see a Black woman in a helicopter on the football team? I have to stream, like, I have to. So it's always about rooting for everybody Black and just rooting for people in general. Like, I want everyone to know that this is why it's crew love. Like, we're all from different crews and with different views, but we're all more alike than we are different. Like, my vast circle is just so crazy. Like, if people are like, oh, like, yeah, like we have similar things, and we have to exchange stories and exchange information and give each other flowers and say, like, look, I'm only the vice president knocking shit down. I can say shit, because it's my show. I can say shit. Don't worry, I'll edit it out. Don't worry. But I'm here for the journey. Like, and again, I have my own personal feelings that's not even covered by so many great things you did. Like, I know that you co-chair Diversity Inclusion Committee, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is awesome, because that means you're speaking up. I don't want to hold, because I know we pushing our time, but definitely tell me about the speaking up about as far as co-chairing that committee.
Yeah, so that was 5 years ago, or going on 6. So prior to that, we didn't have anything like that at S&P, and it came up. We have these town hall meetings with our CEO at the time, was John Sargent, and the question about diversity and inclusion and doing that work came up during one of those town halls, and he was like, let's make it happen, So that was the beginning of the, the word was put out there, like, anybody who's interested, and so I was like, oh, you're not having that conversation without me. So I was like, immediately, I was like, I want to be involved,
You're the most affected, right?
Yeah, and so I was just ready, right from the jump. And when they were forming a committee, they asked me to co-chair. Right. So, I had never done anything like that, and hadn't done that work in an extremely formal way. Like, yes, in my own way, and what I'm bringing in, yes, but this was different in terms of like how we move and operate as a company. Like, that was new. So, it was a lot of work, but it was like this really important work that we all needed to do, long overdue, of course, but it's what it kicked off was kind of like this journey that we hadn't been on at all. before. And, you know, I definitely can't take any credit. I can't take any like personal credit because it was really the whole council. It's like everybody who stepped up, they volunteered, you know, and it was like at times it was like a part-time job, but we were doing it because we knew the work was important. And, you know, we had a lot of support from the top, from the executive team of Macmillan, we had support. So that was really important because it's hard work. And without the support at the top, it's almost impossible.
Follow suit, right? So if they see top supporting you guys, it gives more support, and it leads, for lack of a better word, credibility to what you're doing, because the top is. But there are people I feel like that definitely want the change to happen, and it's good to have those conversations. Like my friends, my non-Black friends, and my Jays. That's what we call each other, the Jays, because they're my Jewish friends. And then we have these conversations. Like I remember, and it's that. So when George Floyd, and we were going back and forth, I had a friend. He's a really good friend of mine. He's an attorney. He sent me a text. He said, "I know you're in a lot of pain right now." He said, "Call me if you need to yell at a white." And when I tell you, that was like it was such a small thing, but it was a big thing because he knew there was like the rage. There's sometimes that we have to get it out, and this is how you move the needle forward when you have these discussions. We can't tiptoe around. Like I'm learning now not to tiptoe, like to be, to take up more space. And I'm learning like by watching the Monique Pattersons, like the Tressors and the Issa Raes and the Lena Waifs, and the Ava DuVernays. Like I am here for all of that forward movement because we have to be able to tell our stories how we want them and our narrative and just say and elevate each other. And before I go, I have just one last question because this dog is crazy, and I know you are a multi-hyphenated person. You have so much things to do. You're so chill and relaxed. I definitely know, like you're probably like, yeah, when I finish this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and that life of a mogul. But Intellectual Inc. is a magazine for like readers and writers. And I know you've worked with some of our readers' favorite, like Ashley Jaquavis, Nikki Turner, Kawan, Tracy Brown.
Lots of them.
I have like all of this. I'm like Elsa T, Tracy, and you have the Midas touch, and especially when it comes to that. Is there any advice that you can give to these new and aspiring writers in this new age of publishing as to what they can do to get where the Ashley and Jaquavis and the Kawans and the Wahidas and the rest of the lot? Because I know there's so many that I didn't even name.
Right. I would say there's two things I would say is read a lot. Read constantly, read good books, read bad books, be able to figure out like what makes it good and what makes it bad, and not just in your genre, read in other genres, read things that are, read things that are wildly different, expose yourself to things that you're like, I don't think I like this, but do it anyway. You don't have to read everything in that category that you don't really care about, but like some things, because there's always going to be something that you're going to learn, The other thing is always be working on perfecting your craft, get better at your storytelling and all the ways that you can get better at it, in like, if you're really good at dialogue, you can be better. If you're good at descriptions, you can be better, and those things that you feel are weaknesses, know what they are and still work on them, It's okay that those things are there, and the good thing about knowing where your weak spots are is that you know how to shore them up. But if you don't ever look at them, then you'll never be able to like shore them up and make that a better experience for the reader. And there's a difference between writing solely for your own enjoyment and writing for publication. If you really, really want to be published, then you have to do something that I've been saying for years, was that you have to figure out what is your heart's desire. So I always say it's your heart's desire and this is the market, heart of the market, and you have to find a way to bring those two together. You know,
Your heart.
you don't have to.
Market.
And heart of the market, bring those two together, because you're not going to be happy if you're simply writing to a trend or writing what you think people want. But at the same time, you do need to know what is actually working in the market, you know. And sometimes, like, what you'll do will be this interesting spin on something that's in the market that hasn't been there before, but you're not going to know unless you like really pay attention, unless you kind of like know what's going on out there. Who's your competition? You don't have to be all up underneath the competition, but know what's happening in the market and know
be on the pulse, right?
Right. And know and pay attention to what the publishers are looking for. You know, everybody isn't looking for the same thing. Every publisher is a little different, you know. So, you know, it's about just kind of like knowing your craft and knowing your market, you know, and being able to harness both of those things.
That is great advice from someone with so much experience, to be so young, so much wisdom and knowledge with all of these under your belt. And I just want to thank you for stepping into Charlotte's Closet and Crew Love. And on behalf of Intellectual Inc., all our readers, and on behalf of the Foye family, myself, I just want to give you your flowers and tell you that you are amazing. And we are just watching and being inspired. And we just look forward to seeing so many more things from you. And I hope that whoever is watching this can see what it looks like to really stay the course, know what you want, and do what you have to do. Not all superheroes wear cape, but you got yours on. Yours is invisible. I see you. I see you, Natiru. Did I say it right, Natiru?
Yes.
You better slay those publishing demons. You better take us to a new level, and we are watching, and I am here for it. The door is now open, and I'm going to step in it right behind you to do more things. So on behalf of Intellectual Inc. magazine, we thank you so much, Ms. Patterson. You have a lovely, lovely day, and thank you for all of the many things you just shared with us today. I am filled. My heart is full right now. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to your audience, to talk with you. You know, it's been a minute, and this has been so amazing.
It's been a minute. It's been some cows. But we're doing the mock-up now. So I used the picture you have. So I'm going to send you over the cover of the magazine, because it's a mock-up. So you can just, you know, decide if it works for you. You let us know. But I have some mock-ups to send you, and I'll send them CC Maria. And I just thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Have a great day. And I'm so happy. Yay! Yes.
And congratulations to you and Intellectual Inc. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. We need you.
I'm pushing forward. I'm just trying to be like a lady with all the platitudes behind her name. Come on. Take care. And okay. Thank you.
Thank you.